Hey everyone, today's story is brought to you by Audible. Audible brings you the best selection of audiobooks and podcasts in the world. Start listening today with a free trial at audible.com/forwardstories or scan the QR code provided. It was a bustling morning at the corner diner. Sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the sweet scent of pancakes on the griddle. Laughter echoed from a booth in the corner where a group of friends caught up over steaming mugs. At a nearby table sat a woman who seemed out of place. Her tailored suit and polished shoes made her stand out amongst the blue-collar patrons. Despite the comfortable casualness of the diner, she exuded an air of elegance that hinted at a life beyond the everyday concerns of the working folks around her. Her fingers, long and slender, rested on the tabletop, tapping a gentle rhythm, as if in time with the unspoken thoughts running through her head. A faint frown creased her forehead, betraying a hint of worry beneath her composed exterior. Her eyes, sharp and intelligent, scanned the room, taking in every detail with an intensity that suggested she was on the lookout for something. The bell above the door chimed, announcing a new arrival, and her gaze turned towards the entrance, a flicker of hope in her eyes. As the newcomer approached, her face broke into a warm smile, instantly transforming her demeanor. With a wave of her hand, she called out in a melodious voice, "Eleanor, darling, so glad you could make it." Eleanor, a striking brunette with a confident stride, joined her at the table, her eyes sparkling with intelligence. They exchanged greetings, their voices hushed, conspiratorial, as if sharing a secret that transcended the clatter of cutlery and the murmur of conversation around them. A stack of papers was placed between them, its contents the focus of their intense discussion. They leaned in, their heads close together, their voices dropping to hushed whispers as they pored over the documents. Their conversation was a study in contrasts. Eleanor spoke with a controlled, precise cadence, each word carefully measured, while Clara's voice flowed with an effortless charm, her tone lilting like a songbird. Despite their differences, there was a palpable chemistry between them, shared understanding that hinted at a deep bond forged over years of working together. The diner might have been an unlikely setting for such a clandestine meeting, but the two women seemed oblivious to the curious stares of other patrons. In this small, unassuming eatery, two influential figures were strategizing, their words weaving a tapestry of plans and possibilities that could shape the future. Suddenly, the door chimes cut through the intensity of their discussion. Both women turned their heads towards the entrance, their gazes fixed on the newcomer. A tall man, his frame broad and imposing, stood silhouetted against the sunlight streaming through the window. His presence seemed to fill the space, commanding attention. Even from afar, one could sense the quiet power that radiated from him. His attire was a testament to his success, yet there was an understated elegance about him that spoke of refined taste and a discerning eye. But it was his face that truly commanded attention. Sharp, defined features, a strong jawline, and piercing eyes that seemed to bore into everything around him. There was an intensity about him that hinted at a relentless drive, a steely determination that had propelled him to the top of his game. Yet there was also a hint of weariness around those piercing eyes, a shadow of fatigue that suggested the weight of his achievements pressed heavily upon him. He moved with a controlled grace, each step purposeful and decisive, his gaze unwavering. As he crossed the room, the air seemed to crackle with energy, as if his very presence charged the atmosphere. When he stopped beside the table, his gaze sharp and unwavering met theirs. The intensity of his stare was undeniable, leaving no doubt that he commanded respect, perhaps even fear. With a nod of his head, he acknowledged their presence before settling into the chair opposite them. The air thickened with tension as he joined them, his mere presence disrupting the equilibrium of the room. Clara and Eleanor exchanged a look, a silent communication passing between them. Clara, with a graceful gesture, motioned for the waiter to leave them alone, assuring their conversation would remain private. As the door closed behind the waiter, shutting out the noise of the diner, a hush fell over the table. The only sound was the faint hum of the refrigerator in the corner, adding a layer of intimacy to their secluded space. The man cleared his throat, his voice a low rumble that echoed the power he exuded from the moment he entered. "So," he began, his gaze sweeping over them, "what's the verdict?" His voice was a study in contrasts, a perfect blend of controlled power and underlying authority. In that small corner booth, three figures sat locked in a world of their own, strategizing, planning, their voices weaving a narrative of ambition and determination. Outside, the world moved on, oblivious to the web of influence being spun within the four walls of the diner booth. Theirs was a world where decisions were made, where fortunes could be won or lost, and where the quiet hum of a refrigerator provided the soundtrack to their whispered plans. In a world where the loudest voices often drown out the quietest, it takes a special kind of person to listen, to understand, and to appreciate the beauty of silence. And that's exactly what makes Emma unique. She's not just a waitress. She's a storyteller without words, a communicator who speaks volumes with her eyes and hands. Born into a family that valued hard work over fancy words, Emma learned early on that actions spoke louder than words. She poured her heart into everything she did, whether it was comforting a crying child or helping an elderly customer cross the street. Her empathy knew no bounds. People might not have noticed her at first, but they always remembered how she made them feel when she was around. One rainy afternoon, a stranger walked into the diner. He was different from the usual crowd, dressed in expensive clothes and carrying an air of authority that demanded attention. Everyone in the diner seemed to take notice of him. It was clear that he wasn't like them. Emma, however, didn't let it faze her. She greeted him with the same warmth and kindness she offered everyone. "Good afternoon, sir. What can I get for you?" she asked, her voice soft but clear. The man looked up at her, his gaze intense. "I'd like some coffee, please," he replied, his voice a low rumble that echoed his powerful presence. Emma nodded and got to work. She knew that just like everyone else, he might judge her for her simple ways, but she didn't care. She poured his coffee with the same care she put into everything else. As she brought it to him, she caught him studying her hands. She didn't know why, but it didn't bother her. She knew her hands were rough from years of hard work, but they were strong and sure, a testament to her dedication and resolve. The man took the coffee without a word. Emma turned to leave, but he called her back. "Wait," he said, his voice demanding her attention. Emma paused and turned back to him, her eyes questioning. "Why do you treat me differently?" he asked, his gaze piercing. Emma looked at him, puzzled. "I don't," she said honestly. "I treat everyone the same." The man seemed to study her for a moment, his expression unreadable. "Very well," he finally said, turning back to his coffee. Emma continued with her work, serving the other customers with the same grace and dignity. She didn't need fancy words or expensive gifts. Her reward was in the smiles and grateful nods she received in return. As the hours passed, the diner filled with the usual chatter and laughter. But Emma couldn't shake off the feeling that someone was watching her. She glanced around, trying to figure out who it was. Suddenly, she caught the stranger's gaze lingering on her. She didn't know what he was thinking, but it didn't matter. She was comfortable in her own skin, secure in the knowledge that she didn't need anyone's approval to be happy. When it was time to close, Emma locked up the diner with her usual routine. She checked the windows, turned off the lights, and set the alarm. As she walked out, she noticed the stranger was still sitting at his table, his coffee long cold. He hadn't left. She hesitated for a moment, wondering if she should say goodbye, but then she shrugged and walked away. She had a good feeling he would be back. And when he did, she would welcome him with the same warmth and kindness she showed everyone. After all, she didn't need fancy words or expensive gifts. Her reward was in the smiles and grateful nods she received in return. And she knew that when the stranger came back, he would understand that too. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please remember to share and subscribe. Your support means everything to us. Till next time, take care.